Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna show you how I make my glitches. Yeah. So like the techniques I'm gonna show you are like from things I've like learned from like other people. And before I like show you like how I like go through like to make the glitches, I wanna go over like what make glitches like good and sounds uh like the glitches that you like hear from like most of the botanica songs. The main thing is like to have like those very like goopy sharp and like metallic like glitches. Like you really need to have like a lot of like randomness like in your source like audio. You will need like pitch movements and delays and like some effects like dispersal and like vocoders like to make the sounds like more liquidy. So I'll be going through like two different workflows that I usually do. So like this is one of the methods that I'm gonna show you like how to make glitches. The main concept of like using like the pitch like delays and like filters are basically like all the same for like for whatever you use. For whatever plugin you use. And in this patch, I'm only using like an operator patch, which is just a simple like sine wave like movement, and and like the main sound is just like an operator like being an operator like sine plug like being modulated like with the arpeggiator like, and the MIDI looks like this like is I've like put all the notes from C0 to like C7 to have a wider range, and the arpeggiator is like going through all of it, and the rate is also like controlled by like a random level, and this is basically how it sounds like the bass sound. Yeah, it's just basically sine plugs like hits. And if I like turn on like the and then the for the pitch shifter, you can basically use any like plugins like in this case I'm using elastic pitch, but you can also do it with like Ableton's like shifter, and like the main thing about like glitches are just like modulating like any like parameter from a plugin. So like for the synth for the operator, I'm like modulating like the attack, like the K and the release, like the ADSR stuff, then also like the pitch envelope stuff. So like it's like getting its like movement like from like any like if you're basically like changing like small amount of like stuff for the sound, like so it's like when you like have post processing on, like it will like amplify like the changes, like it will just sounds like glitchy. And after like the pitch shifter, I'm like adding a disperser rack, like which is like a disperser ran through like a LFO random, like it's basically just controlling like the the frequency of the disperser, and it's just to give like a bit more like a liquidy texture. These are all like the LFO controls like for the operator. Then just for the arpeggiator, so it's like it's gonna like go very like random, and then it's gonna go like very glitchy, even though like there's nothing like going on, and it already sounds like really good, which I really like how this sounds to like. I also like use these type of sounds on my like Foley's. Then this LFO like chain is just to control like the pitch envelope, like the parameters for like elastic pitch, and yeah, it's mostly just a lot of LFOs. It already sounds like really good. Then I add like two disperser racks, like which is also like random, to like give it more like liquidy texture, and then the sounds are really like way better. And then I try using like two vocoders like with like a parallel chain. One's like having like alternate like bins, and then one's like a flip one. I mean, there's no reason behind doing this, but it's just something that I want to like try out. And then it surprisingly gives me like a plasticky texture, which is like pretty good. And then like a disperser to like a bit smoothen it out. Then like an EQ to like clean up the mud. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like it's just since like I have like a lot of like MIDI like going on, like when the arpeggiator like goes through all the notes, it's gonna like have a messy sound. So I rather just not have like a muddy sound like at the end. Like it's really not necessary. Like it just depends on like what you need. That's just an OTT just to like bring up the sound again. Then this plugin is from E1 Bristol. Like it's a plug data effect, and I'm using this like I mean it's a soothe, like a free soothe, but I'm using like the delta signal to like take the mushy texture of like the sound, and then the amount is also like automated, so that it's not like always like taking the texture. It's just randomly taking the texture, so it's like sounds really good. You can also like turn like you can also like reduce like the resonant frequency instead of like using like the delta signal. I think like both sounds good, but this one sounds a bit like more like toned down, and this one sounds more like a bit more sharper. Yeah, but either way, like both are like good, like good to like good to like have it. Sorry, and it's just like an OTT rec to just like bring out like the texture. It's just like automating like the time, and then that's it. Yeah, it's like pretty simple. Like it's basically just like I would say like the main like VS like plugin that you should have is like the LFO random. I just found it like on like a random website, and I mean it is free though. You just find like LFO random like Max for Life, and then you have this. I mean, like the key like the main thing about like making glitches is just having like any type of like plugin and just modulating like all the parameters like at once, and then you're just randomizing it. You can literally just have like a bass loop, like a bass loop, and then have an EQ8, and then just make the notches like go randomly, and then you have like cool glitches. Like that's it. That's basically just it. So this is another patch like to make glitches, but I'm instead of using like an operator, I'm using like Ableton's like a granulator. You can use like different types of like granular synths. But I'm like more familiar with like Ableton's. So I'm using this. But I think there are like free alternatives like out there, like which is like pretty good. Like I think Emergence is a pretty good like VST for like granular synthesis. But yeah, for now I'm using just Ableton's granulator. But if you're using FL, you can use like the built-in like granulator, and it's also pretty good. So for this patch, I'm doing like the same thing as like the previous patch. I'm just using LFOs like to modulate all the parameters from like from the granulator. So I'm modulating like the grains, like the file position and like the spray, and even like the spread, like the stereo depth for the granulator. So yeah, most of the sound like comes from like having multiple dispersers, like the disperser random rec, then like four of them, and like vocoders like getting like modulated like every time, then having OTT like and having like multiple delays. Like I'm modulating like left and right signals from like the delay, so that it gives you like a very like liquidy, like a mushy type of sound. Like uh for this glitch, for this type of rig, if you're like using heavily on delays, it's better to like have like a vocoder like at the end, so like kind of like tames down like the like like the like the messy effect of like the delay. So like vocoders like kind of like smoothens like the texture like into like a more like a liquid texture. So yeah, like and then just have like more disperser at the end. Then this is like the base sound that I will sometimes I use it to later like reprocess it to like some of like the metallic texture. So like this is the patch itself just sounds like this. So so this patch is just more like goopy. Then I'm just using like different folders like for like the signal for the input signal like just this. And you can literally use anything that's like atonal like drums like foley's like random hit like even noise. I'm gonna add like a drum. It's like a drum collection that I just found out from my like sample packs. Then just render it out into a long file, then just put it into like, the granulator. Yeah, and then just ran it through like the patch. Then it just sounds like it will just give you like more variation like uh depending on like the input like source that you like add. Yeah, and this is more like a classy and like it's like foley's like they use for like movies and stuff. Then they also like sound pretty like neat. Yeah, and then this one just like less foley's. Yeah, most of them just sounds like goopy, and like, it's just like the main difference is just having like a higher like high frequency like content and like a more like low frequency content like for drums. Then if you want to like make it more like spectral and like have the glitch more have a bit more like tonality, you can just use like a spectral gate. For now I'm using like a spec ops. Then you can literally just have the FFT size to like 32K or like 16K. Then you can literally just have like the noise filter on and then have it ran through like the granular patch. Then you'll definitely have like those spectral glitches that you like hear from like botanica like textures. Yeah, you just try to like experiment with like different plugins. Like some of the plugins will like give like some different like results, but most of like the technique itself produce like the same type of sound like regardless of like what plugins you're using. But for like spectral gates, right? I think for spec ops like the smearing effect really like adds on top as adds like a lot to the tonality. Like if you have like a very like high end input source and like the high end like output, then like if you have like spec ops and then have noise filter and have it on, you kind of like you can kind of like get these type of sounds like um what, yeah, these type of sounds that you can literally have them. It's basically just the same concept, but like just having like a different like audio like input source. This is basically all from like spec ops like yeah, like it depends on like how you like what type of like input source like you're feeding into like the granular batch. But yeah. So yeah, thank you guys for like watching, and you guys can follow me on my socials in the description. Bye bye.